The town of Willow Creek had always been known for its tranquility. Nestled in a picturesque valley, surrounded by lush forests and a serene river, it was the epitome of a peaceful, small-town life. But this serenity was shattered one fateful autumn evening when the first of a series of inexplicable deaths occurred. It all began with the disappearance of young Tommy Mitchell. Tommy was a lively 12-year-old boy, known for his mischievous grin and boundless energy. He was the kind of boy who would spend hours exploring the woods, climbing trees, and chasing after rabbits. His parents were used to his adventures, but when he didn't return home by nightfall, worry set in. A search party was quickly assembled. Neighbors, friends, and local authorities combed the woods, calling out his name, their voices echoing through the silent trees. They found nothing but eerie silence and shadows that seemed to dance just out of reach. Days turned into weeks, and hope dwindled. The town mourned for Tommy, assuming he had fallen victim to some tragic accident. But then, the strange occurrences began. It started with whispers. People claimed to hear a child's laughter in the dead of night, drifting on the wind. Windows would rattle for no reason, and doors would creak open on their own. At first, these events were dismissed as figments of overactive imaginations or the result of the wind. But soon, they could not be ignored. The first death occurred on a chilly October night. Mrs. Halloway, an elderly widow who lived alone, was found dead in her home. The cause of death was undetermined, but her face was frozen in a mask of sheer terror. The town was shocked, but they chalked it up to natural causes, until it happened again. Within a month, 3 more people were found dead under similar circumstances. Mr. Thompson, the local baker, Jenny Pearson, a young schoolteacher, and Sam, the town's blacksmith. All of them were discovered with expressions of horror, their homes filled with an unnatural chill. Fear gripped Willow Creek, and whispers of a vengeful spirit began to circulate. The rumors intensified when a group of teenagers, determined to prove the ghost stories wrong, ventured into the woods one night. Only one of them returned, babbling incoherently about a boy with hollow eyes and a sinister smile. His friends were never seen again. The survivor was taken to a nearby psychiatric facility, his mind shattered by the encounter. As the deaths continued, the town turned to its history for answers. They discovered that Willow Creek had a dark past. Over a century ago, a boy named Peter had drowned in the river. His death was ruled an accident, but his grieving mother, a known practitioner of dark arts, had cursed the town with her dying breath. It was said that her spirit would not rest until her son's death was avenged. Desperate for a solution, the townspeople sought the help of Father O'Malley, a priest from a neighboring town known for his knowledge of the supernatural. Father O'Malley arrived with a determined look and a heavy heart, knowing that the task ahead would be daunting. He spent days investigating the deaths, talking to witnesses, and studying the town's history. One evening, Father O'Malley gathered the townspeople in the church. He explained that the spirit haunting Willow Creek was indeed the vengeful ghost of young Peter, fueled by his mother's curse. The only way to end the haunting was to find Peter's remains and perform a cleansing ritual to release his spirit. The search for Peter's remains was arduous. The woods, once a place of joy and adventure, had become a maze of shadows and whispers. Guided by Father O'Malley's faith and determination, the townspeople scoured the forest. Days turned into weeks, and just when hope seemed lost, they found it, a small, weathered gravestone hidden beneath the underbrush near the riverbank. Father O'Malley performed the ritual, chanting ancient prayers and sprinkling holy water over the grave. The air grew heavy, and a cold wind swept through the clearing. For a moment, the world seemed to hold its breath. Then, a soft, almost inaudible sigh echoed through the trees, and the oppressive atmosphere lifted. The hauntings ceased, and the deaths stopped. Willow Creek slowly returned to its former tranquility, though the scars of that dark period lingered. The townspeople never forgot the terror they had endured, and the story of Peter's vengeful spirit became a cautionary tale passed down through generations. Years later, on the anniversary of Peter's death, a group of children ventured to the old grave by the river. They placed flowers and whispered prayers, hoping to keep the restless spirit at bay. As they walked away, the wind rustled the leaves, and for a brief moment, a boy's laughter echoed through the trees. But this time, it was a sound of peace. Despite the ritual performed by Father O'Malley, Willow Creek could never completely shake off the chilling memories of Peter's hauntings. The town, though tranquil on the surface, was still shadowed by the past. Children grew up hearing the stories, their parents warning them to stay away from the riverbank and the surrounding woods. One summer, a new family moved to Willow Creek. The Andersons, seeking a fresh start, bought a charming old house on the edge of town. With them was their 11-year-old son, Ethan, a curious and adventurous boy who quickly became the talk of the town for his fearless nature. Ethan's parents were aware of the town's dark history, but chose not to burden their son with tales of ghosts and curses. Instead, they encouraged his explorations, believing that the peaceful countryside would be a perfect place for him to grow up. Ethan spent his days exploring the woods, fishing by the river, and making new friends. One day, while wandering near the old graveyard, Ethan stumbled upon Peter's gravestone. It was weathered and covered in moss, almost hidden from sight. He felt an odd sense of unease, but brushed it off as his imagination. Intrigued by the ancient stone, he decided to clean it up, revealing the name etched into it, Peter. Ethan mentioned the gravestone to his parents that evening, but they quickly changed the subject, not wanting to scare him. However, that night, Ethan began to experience strange dreams. He saw a boy his age, with hollow eyes and a sad smile, beckoning him to the river. The dreams were vivid and unsettling, but Ethan kept them to himself. As the days passed, the dreams grew more intense. Ethan would wake up in a cold sweat, the boy's voice echoing in his mind. One night, unable to sleep, he decided to follow the boy's calls. Slipping out of his house, he made his way to the riverbank under the pale moonlight. The air was cold, and the silence was deafening. At the riverbank, Ethan saw him, the ghostly figure of Peter, standing on the water's edge. Peter's eyes were filled with sorrow, and he seemed to be silently pleading for something. Ethan, despite his fear, felt a strange connection to the boy. He approached cautiously, his heart pounding. Peter's apparition began to speak, his voice a whisper carried by the wind. He told Ethan about his tragic death and the curse placed upon the town by his grieving mother. Peter's spirit was trapped, unable to move on because of the pain and anger that bound him to this world. He needed help to find peace. Ethan, feeling a mix of empathy and determination, promised to help Peter. He returned home and confided in his parents, who were initially skeptical but couldn't ignore the sincerity in their son's eyes. They contacted Father O'Malley, hoping he could provide guidance once more. Father O'Malley arrived, now an older and more weary man. He listened to Ethan's story and recognized the signs. He explained that while the initial ritual had quelled the immediate hauntings, Peter's spirit remained restless. To truly free him, they needed to perform a more profound ritual, one that would cleanse not just Peter's grave but the entire area where he had died. The townspeople, remembering the horrors of the past, were hesitant but ultimately agreed to assist. They gathered at the riverbank with Father O'Malley leading the ceremony. Candles were lit, prayers were said, and the air grew heavy with anticipation. Ethan stood by, holding a small cross, his eyes fixed on Peter's gravestone. As Father O'Malley recited the final prayers, a chill swept through the crowd. Peter's apparition appeared, his eyes now filled with hope instead of sorrow. He looked at Ethan and smiled, mouthing a silent "thank you." The candles flickered, and a soft, ethereal light enveloped Peter's spirit. Slowly, he began to fade, his form dissolving into the night. The ritual ended, and a profound silence fell over the riverbank. The oppressive atmosphere that had lingered for so long lifted, replaced by a sense of peace and closure. The townspeople breathed a collective sigh of relief, knowing that Peter's spirit was finally at rest. Willow Creek gradually returned to its former self, but the story of Peter and the boy who freed him became a part of the town's legacy. Ethan, hailed as a hero, grew up with a deeper understanding of the supernatural and the importance of empathy and courage. Years later, as an adult, Ethan would often visit Peter's grave, now well tended and adorned with flowers. He would sit by the river, listening to the wind rustle the leaves, and sometimes, Just sometimes, he would hear a faint, joyful laughter echoing through the trees. It was a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always a glimmer of hope and a chance for redemption. The moral of the story is that even in the face of fear and tragedy, empathy, courage, and determination can bring peace and redemption. By understanding and addressing the past's unresolved pain, we can free ourselves and others from lingering darkness. The story also emphasizes the importance of community support and the power of belief in overcoming supernatural challenges.